Hi, if stress is a major menopausal issue for you, and it is for so many women, then this is the video for you. This is the second of the pair on stress, and it's the fourth and final video in this series. And I am joined in this series by the amazing Clarissa Kristjansson. She is a menopause coach and mentor, and she's a specialist in stress and mindfulness. So it's fantastic to have her here with us. Hello, Clarissa.
Hello, Kate. Good to be back and doing our second video on stress.
Yeah, it's a massive issue, isn't it, for menopausal women? And we kind of just think that it's just stress, but there's a very specific reason, isn't there, why stress is such a big issue at this time of our lives.
It definitely is. It's our hormonal changes. It's the changes in the decreased estrogen in particular that is, as we were talking earlier, really impacts everything in your brain. You know, there are estrogen receptor sites in every part of your brain that guide your emotions, your fight-flight mechanism, your memory, your learning. So stress impacts all of those too. So if you have changes in your hormones, and of course stress is also hormonal, you know, initiated by cortisol and adrenaline, you feel it through your body, you're just going to have a much bigger issue all round, and your symptoms are going to feel like they're going off the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, I can definitely say I've experienced that, and that kind of marrying up, ratcheting up of the two pieces is what makes this so toxic at this time of our lives. So what's the impact of stress on us and the sort of our physiology and our sort of wider health?
Well, I think the wider health bit is really important in this, because chronic stress, and we're talking about chronic stress, I mean, we all have stress, and I often love the model of, you know, 5% of our day is usually where we are a bit stressed. You know, we've put the brake hard on the car or whatever, but we're meant to be either in drive or emotional, you know, relaxation, connection mode, and we're not. Most of our time we're cycling between stress and full on go, which means you just cortisol, dopamine, which neither of us does any good for us in the long term, because stress impacts every system of our body. And stress is nutrient depleting. So if you actually are highly stressed, you'll find vital nutrients aren't being processed, absorbed in the body in the way that they can be. And that's B vitamins, D vitamins, calcium. So if we're worried about osteoporosis, then, and we should be as women, because we're obviously losing muscle mass, and sarcopenia can be a real factor for so many women, then stress is impacting important nutrients in the body. And it means that our bones are not able to, you know, have the regrowth and the density that they should. So that for me is a huge one. That's one of the number one things, because 2/3 of all osteoporosis sufferers are women, and it's a terrible, terrible disease, which the quality of life is very poor. And that creeps up on us, as we've said earlier.
Yeah, well, osteoporosis is a genetic gift in my family, and I already have osteopenia. So this is, and to be honest, it is one of those conditions we simply don't talk about. In the UK, it had the really lovely name of a dowager's hump. You need to be neither a dowager or, you know, wealth and status have nothing to do with osteoporosis. This is where your bones have lost their density, and it means that you are not only get that stoop, but in addition to that, if you fall, and usually it partners with falling a lot more, then you find that your bones do break. And it means that you are subject to a loss in mobility that is highly detrimental to our lifestyles.
But the other factors is that stress has an impact on our heart, and we probably know that. We've probably heard that heart health message. But when we have gone through perimenopause and we have less estrogen, then our blood vessels are not as flexible. And if our blood vessels are not as flexible, like we've got saggy wrinkles on the outside, we're not quite what we were on the inside either, And so, we have more risk of building up fatty deposits. We're more likely to have bad cholesterol in our body. We're more likely to have elevated blood pressure. And stress, contributes to that. Stress also puts us at risk of high blood pressure, of type 2 diabetes, and that's a recipe for women having a potentially cardiovascular disease and possibly even a heart attack. So stress and estrogen decline are not good for your heart, and it's not good for your brain. I've said estrogen, it has lots of receptors in your brain, and obviously we've got less of those. We do adapt over time. But stress is also inflammatory. And I was reading, all the research from the women's Alzheimer's movement, who include people like Dr. Mosconi, many other really great researchers around the world now. And they are showing more and more clear links between stress and inflammatory conditions in the brain, which is linked to Alzheimer's. Now, it's not like 1 equals 1 and you get 2, but that relationship is there. So keeping stress levels down in the body is going to help us with our long-term brain health too.
So with that in mind, they're all incredibly scary, aren't they? These are big things. They're not like I've cut my finger. These are huge issues. Osteoporosis, Alzheimer's is terrifying, as is heart disease and diabetes. What can we do for ourselves to help us manage stress?
I'd say there are 3 things. Number 1 is lifestyle. We can do so much to help ourselves. Exercise, very high on the agenda. If you exercise, you'll have elevated cortisol, but afterwards it will fall to levels much lower. You will reduce the stress, and you'll see it in the way in which your brain changes, because your brain will actually shrink the amygdala, and you'll grow a lot more of the prefrontal cortex of the brain, where all the emotional regulation and memory and focus comes. So it can only help us in all aspects of our life. So your lifestyle, exercise, diet, sleep, rest, all those things. I would also say, if you're struggling with stress really seriously and you cannot manage it yourself, talk therapy works. Yeah, there is no doubt that whether you go through a hypnotherapy type or you have cognitive behavioral therapy or its extensions, talk therapy helps you rewire your brain with proven methods that have been around for a long time to help you. And we should never think there's anything wrong with us if we go to a therapist to help us. It's a good thing to do. And I know that there's a lot of stigma in many countries, but it doesn't mean that there's anything more wrong with you than you need a helping hand. And the third thing is mindfulness and meditation also work. I would say learn. I've taught mindfulness, and I would say there's a big difference between pressing an app and doing a few things to learning a structured process like MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. It was designed to help people better manage stress and anxiety. And again, you see changes in people's brains who do these practices. It's been linked to reduced hot flashes, better ability to manage your perimenopause symptoms. Lots of really good research with thousands and thousands of women. These are my steps: lifestyle, talk therapy if you need it, and learn mindfulness-based meditations, and learn them the right way so that you go stepwise through a program. They're all over the place. You can sign up. It's very easy, and you can make a big difference to being able to live well with your stress, meet your stresses, and be more resilient. Stress doesn't go away. We just learn to respond to it differently.
the point made about learning mindfulness is one that we need to take on board. This is not a quick fix, as we discussed earlier. None of these things are. They all take commitment, they all take time, they all take a sort of involvement. You can't just say, right, I'm going to do that now and then I'll be okay. This is a way of being, and it's honoring yourself to get that. So I think that that's really, really important. Is there, before we finish today, is there anything else that you could give us, Clarissa?
I think recognize that you are really okay. Yeah, so we are actually all okay, even if we're going through menopause and it doesn't feel like it. You're fine as you are. You may just not have some habits that are working very well for you, and those are within your control to change.
And that's a great point to finish on. Thank you so much, Clarissa. It's been an amazing series. If you haven't seen any of the other 3 in the series, please go back and watch them. Please subscribe. Always leave a message, because we like to hear what you've got to say. And I will see you soon.